read that now. I'll read that in the-
Sarah, do we read now or in the regular meeting? We don't.
Both.
Both?
He's participating, this is a.
That's right, he's
this is a
Oh, okay.
special meeting. Yes.
I'm gonna slide you up.
Thank you, Jim.
There we go. I got it behind you. There we go.
We have to go ahead and start.
There's your redistricting meetings. You call the special meeting to order. And I'll do the introductions.
Okay.
In between there, go ahead and read the statement.
The time has arrived and passed for our redistricting meeting to participate. Would everyone please rise for a moment of silence? And may we repeat the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to read this statement regarding remote access participation. One of our board members could not be here. I wish to recognize that board member Bobby Jones is participating this evening via remote telephone access. As required by the Board of Supervisors electronic meeting policy and section 2.23708.2 of the Code of Virginia, Supervisor Jones has provided notice that he would have to be physically absent from tonight's meeting due to illness. He has requested remote participation in tonight's meeting from his home in Rice, Virginia. His request is in compliance with the board's electronic meeting policy and the requirements of the Code of Virginia. Pending an objection from a member of the board, the remote participation of Supervisor Jones shall be approved and noted in the minutes of this meeting. Supervisor Jones, are you on? Thank you. Good evening. Okay, at this time, I would call on our county administrator, Mr. Douglas Stanley, to introduce this evening's meeting's purpose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Make sure my mic is on. Switch mics forward. Maybe not. As the board is aware, with the completion of the 2020 decennial census, localities in Virginia are required to review and modify election district boundaries as needed, so they shall be construed as to give as nearly as practicable representation in proportion to the population of the district. Additionally, the county has waited until the Supreme Court of Virginia approved the final state plan for our state House of Delegates and Senate members before our process was initiated. Included in the packet at the dais tonight for the board's consideration are draft maps and a draft of the amendments to Chapter 42 of the County Code, Elections, which is the ordinance to provide for the reapportionment of members of county boards of supervisors of Prince Edward County, to establish boundary lines of the election districts, to number each district, and to set representation from each district. The legal description of each district contained in the ordinance is based on the draft plan that is being recommended to the board by our Citizen Advisory Committee for Redistricting. And when I read their name, if you would just raise your hand so you can be recognized. Ben Gano from the Democratic Party, Liz Garrison from the Republican Party, and Cam Patterson from the NAACP. Thank you all for your service on the committee. So the committee met with staff on January 24, 2020, and developed an updated redistricting plan for Prince Edward County. Members of the committee have been invited to this work session, and Cam Patterson was selected to be the chair of the committee and will present the draft plan to the board. Following the presentation and review of the draft plan, the board will wish to consider advertising the draft plan for public comment and public input in accordance with Section 24.2.129 of the Code of Virginia. Sarah has outlined a schedule for completion. I'll let her go over that once we've gone through the committee recommendations. So with that, Cam, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
The Board of Supervisors charged the Citizen Advisory Committee for Redistricting to create a draft redistricting plan for Prince Edward County that was guided by adherence to the legal requirements of redistricting and also the directives outlined by the Board of Supervisors. Those directives included equal population. The county has 8 districts amongst which the population is substantively equal, with an overall deviation of less than 10%. Compactness and contiguity. The local election districts are legally contiguous and compact territory. Clearly defined and observable boundaries. The boundaries of the districts were drawn using roads, rivers, and other naturally constructed or erected permanent structures or visible boundaries on the Tiger Census Block map. And adherence to the Equal Protection Clause. The Constitution of Virginia requires every electoral district be drawn in accordance with the requirements of federal and state law that address racial and ethnic fairness, including the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States and provisions of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 as amended and judicial decisions interpreting such law. Districts shall provide, where practicable, opportunities for racial and ethnic communities to elect candidates of their choice. The directives from the Board of Supervisors were adhered to during this redistricting process. Additionally, in addition to maintaining the 8 districts, we considered communities of interest, consideration for existing voting precinct boundaries and incumbent representation in local public body, and consideration of existing geographical and political boundaries that included but were not limited to town boundaries. There were also 2 actions by the General Assembly that impacted local redistricting. The first was incarcerated populations. Any person incarcerated in a federal, state, or local correctional facility was counted as a resident of the locality where his or her address at the time of incarceration was. And so the county census data was reallocated by the Virginia Division of Legislative Services before it could be utilized by localities. This impacted Prince Edward County by reducing our 2020 census population of 21,849 to a redistricting population of 21,727, a loss of 122 people, most likely the result of reallocation of the Piedmont Regional Jail population. We also considered split precincts. This requirement that local precincts be wholly contained within a single congressional district, state Senate district, and House of Delegates district, in addition to a local election districts. This significantly impacted Prince Edward County this time around because the state has split Prince Edward County between 2 House of Delegate districts, the 50th and the 56th, and 2 state Senate districts, the 9th and the 10th. Local District 2 is the only part of Prince Edward County in House District 56. Local Districts 1, 6, 7, 8, and Precinct 502 are in Senate District 10. So what does this mean for the county? We were limited in how we could move census blocks because we could not cross the House of Delegates and state Senate district lines. And there are references to the maps that show where those lines lie. The draft plan that we present before the board this evening represents the committee's unanimous recommendation to change 11 census blocks. And the changes as it relates to those 11 census blocks include District 2, 3, 4 are completely unchanged. Districts 1, 6, 7, and 8 have changes. and District 5 only has changes to Precinct 502. The specific census block changes are as follows. 2 blocks were moved from District 5, Precinct 502 to District 6. Block 004, which included 17 people, and Block 4007, which included 20 people. 2 blocks were moved from District 5, Precinct 502 to District 7. Block 1024, 0 persons live within that block. And Block 1023, 12 persons live within that block.
Is everybody able to follow what he's outlining for you? Is everybody got that on the map? Okay.
Oh, you're fine. There was 1 block moved from District 7 to District 8, Block 202, which included 308 people. 1 block was moved from District 8 to District 7. That was Block 1035, which included 30 people. And 4 blocks were moved from District 1 to District 8. Block 1004, which includes 1 person. Block 1003, 0 persons. Block 1002, 7 people. And Block 1001, 21 people. 1 block was moved from District 8 to District 1, and that is Block 1027, which included 0 persons. And so in closing, I just want to thank the Board of Supervisors for continuing to support citizen engagement in the redistricting process. I think it makes and really shows the importance of the process that we have undertaken as it relates to redistricting. I think we as a committee accomplished the directives that were set forth by the board, and I'm pleased that there is minimal impact overall to our citizens. We don't have split precincts. Our demographic breakdown amongst the districts has held strong, and we kept main campus of Longwood whole and in the same voting district. And so thus concludes my report. Would welcome any questions.
Mr. Patterson, I would just like to personally say it was an excellent report. Thank you for you and your committee on coming up with doing a great job.
Thank you. And I do believe this is the moment where I shift to the committee if you care to follow up with any comments. Might be putting you on the spot.
The chairman's report was very thorough and concise as could be.
Perfect.
So, Madam Chair, I'll just very quickly share, or kind of go through the packet with the board. Cam has given you a concise overview of the movement of the census blocks, the number of people. But if we want to flip through the packet, so there's a reduced size, but you also have an enlarged size of the 2 maps, one that shows the county in the entirety, and then one that shows with specificity, especially in the town area, which is where most of the movement took place. The next 4 pages, starting on page 5, are the House of Delegates and Senate districts. So you can see how the districts were split, or how Prince Edward County was split between the 2 Senate districts and the 2 House districts. Starting on page 9 is the draft ordinance, which will in fact be a recodification of Chapter 42, elections in the Prince Edward County Code. So with the assistance of the county attorney and the voter registrar, we went through and actually updated this whole code, this whole chapter of our county code. You will note that the census blocks are still in red, and then the ones that were moved are highlighted at the end of each district. So we're going to go through and just double check those. That's, I'm going to say, additional information that we're going to include in the code, but it's not required. But I would encourage each board member, the way this is laid out is that the districts are described in a meets and bounds fashion, turn by turn. So I would encourage you to pull out a map, and if you need one, let us know before you leave, and to take this and sit down and kind of turn by turn, make sure that you are confident and comfortable with the district's meets and bounds, because it would be most important that the members of the board understand what these boundaries represent. But the public hearing notice, if the board so desires, at the end of the meeting, this is what we will advertise, including the maps, for public comment and public hearing purposes, starting after tonight. And then flipping over to page 18 is a summary of the population data. So the column on your far left is the 2010 population of each voting district in Prince Edward County. The second column is the 2021 population, I'm going to say, of your current or the old voting district. And then the optimal population for every voting district in Prince Edward County based on the 2020 census data that was then reallocated by the state, the prison population. 2,716 is the quote-unquote optimal district population. The next column that says proposed district population is what the population of your district will be under the current draft plan presented by the committee. The proposed changes, that's number of people. I should have noted that. So that's how many people were moved from one district to another based on the blocks that Cam outlined earlier. And then it shows you the deviation from the optimal in terms of the number of people and then the percentage. Now, you will recall that Cam said that it falls within the 10%. So that is the federal measure of, I'm going to say, population equity. The Supreme Court of Virginia did the County of Prince Edward no favors when it locked in District 2, which is the Lockett District, which basically, you know, we had to accept that district as it was drawn by the Supreme Court map drawers. So if you notice that that district is a little bit larger than everybody else's, we had no ability to affect change on that district, even though the Board of Supervisors had submitted a request to the Supreme Court and asked for a modification. Our request was not accepted, and they did not give us a modification. So we had to work within the conditions that the Supreme Court gave us. And then, as Cam pointed out, another portion of the county was locked in to a separate Senate district. So we could only move people within that geographic area in order to make or cure all of the other population anomalies that were outside. So I think the committee did a really good job moving as few districts as possible to try and affect and meet the population requirements that are set forth both at the federal and the state level. The next two sections of information starting on page 19. So the information starting on page 19 is the report that is generated by the redistricting software that the CRC, we should acknowledge Melody Foster and the contribution that the CRC made to this process. This tells you district by district what the demographic breakdown is based on the 2020 census data. And then starting on page 23 is the 2010 data for your old or your, I would say your current district. So you can compare your 2010 district to your 2020 district with the demographic data that was generated by the census software. And then on page 27 is the draft public hearing notice. There were a number of requirements that the Code of Virginia set forth. Not only will the board have a public hearing, but in fact, they say a minimum of one. So staff is recommending that the board in fact hold 2 public hearings. You also are required to have separately what is called a minimum of a 30-day comment period. So all of those requirements are covered. The county attorney has reviewed the public hearing notice. And so with the board's consent, when we finish, y'all would authorize us advertising the public hearing notice for the next 2 consecutive weeks. And then flipping back to page 1, this is the schedule that the county will follow with the board's consent to complete the redistricting process. So tonight, if you authorize advertising the draft plan, the advertising dates would be February 16th and the 23rd. The public comment period, a minimum of 30 days. We're recommending February the 16th through April the 8th. The first public hearing would be at the March board meeting. We would suggest that a second public hearing be held on March the 29th, which is one of your budget work sessions. The public comment period would end April the 8th, which is more than the statutory required 30 days. And then all of the public comment and final action on the redistricting would come back to the board at your April 12th meeting. If there are no amendments and no changes, the board would act on the final plan, and then the staff would advertise a notice that the redistricting plan will take effect in 30 days, which effectively would be May the 20th, 2022. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I know that's a lot of information, and a lot of it is procedural. But I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Good job.
Yeah.
Yes, well, thank you.
Our hats off to the Citizens Committee.
Yeah.
So, Madam Chair, there on page 2, there are 2 recommendations pending before the board this evening. One is to approve the redistricting schedule, and the second is to authorize advertising the amended redistricting plan and ordinance for public hearing and public comment.
With the information presented, could I have a motion to move that we approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been, any further discussion or questions? Okay, it's properly motioned and second that we approve this, and again, an excellent job. Okay, ready for the vote? Ms. Patty Cooper Jones?
Yes.
Yes. Supervisor Gillum?
Yes.
Supervisor Townsend?
Yes.
Supervisor Emmerich?
Yes.
Supervisor Booth?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilk?
Yes.
Supervisor Jones? Okay. So that motion is approved and carries.
Madam Chair, I would again like to thank our citizen committee members. I want to thank Sarah for the excellent work that she's done. She's immersed herself in this for the last 2 to 3 weeks, and you can see the outcome. It was a good, clean product. I want to thank Melody again from CRC, because the software really makes everything easy, and as far as the numbers, and it was really easy for us to sit here in the room and adjust blocks and look at how it impacted the potential demographics. And I want to thank Terry for her help in reviewing the draft ordinance. And we will get the ads and stuff placed and keep this on track. We will have information, we'll have it on the website, Facebook page. We'll have hard copies available here for folks if they're at home and want to see something. We'll have the information, we can send it to them.
Okay, is that it? So is that it?
Yes, ma'am, we're ready to adjourn the special meeting.
Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, it's been a motion and second that we adjourn. Ms. Cooper Jones?
Yes.
Pride, yes. Gillen?
Yes.
Supervisor Townsend?
Yes.
Supervisor Emery?
Yes.
Supervisor Booth?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilk?
Yes.
And Supervisor Jones? We need-
Hold up just a minute. We need to remake that motion. We need to recess rather than,
You can adjourn, because this is a special meeting, and your regular meeting is already
Advertised.
Yes,
stand corrected.
thank you. Okay,
Thanks for keeping us straight.
meeting is adjourned.
All right.
Thank you, Dave.
David's thinking, thank you, David.
Good job.